Commander Taijo stood at the main viewing window of Earth Defense Station Alpha. His hands were tight behind his back. His face showed no fear, but inside his heart beat fast. On the screens around him, 300 alien warships moved into position around Earth. They were huge dark ships with strange sharp edges. Next to them, Earth's 25 defense ships looked like small toys. "Sir, the Ralvarian fleet has stopped moving. They are now in attack position," said Officer Kim, her voice steady despite the danger. Taijo nodded. "And our ships?" "All in position according to your plan, sir. Though I must say..." She paused, looking at the tactical display. "The formation seems unusual." "It is," Taijo said. He didn't explain more. The other officers in the command center exchanged quick looks. Taijo had placed Earth's ships in a pattern that made no sense to them. Some were grouped near the moon, others near communication stations. None were in standard defense positions taught at the academy. The main screen lit up, a message from the alien fleet. "They're calling, sir," said Communications Officer Park. "The Ralvarian Admiral wants to speak." "Put it on screen," Taijo ordered. The face that appeared made several officers step back. Admiral Koro of the Ralvarian fleet was not human-like at all. His face was covered in a natural armor that looked like dark blue plates. His four eyes blinked at different times. When he spoke, sharp teeth showed. "Commander of Earth Forces," Koro's voice boomed through the translator. "I am Admiral Koro of the Ralvarian Empire. We have conquered 17 systems before yours. All who fought us are now gone. All who surrendered now serve us. You have 1 Earth hour to decide which you prefer." Taijo stepped forward. His face remained calm. "Admiral Koro, I am Commander Taijo of the United Earth Defense Force. We have a different option to suggest. We wish to open diplomatic talks." All 4 of Koro's eyes blinked at once. Then he made a sound that the translator didn't catch. The officers realized it might be laughter. "Diplomatic talks? With a species about to be conquered?" Koro leaned closer to his screen. "Your ships are few, your weapons are simple. What could you possibly have to negotiate?" "That is for our diplomats to discuss," Taijo said. "We request permission to send Ambassador Minji to your ship with a small team. They will explain everything." The alien was quiet for a long moment. In the 17 systems the Ralvarians had attacked, no species had ever asked to talk. They either fought and died or gave up right away. This was new. "Very well," Koro finally said. "Send your ambassador. It will be interesting to hear what a doomed species thinks it can offer. You have permission to approach the main ship. Any weapons will mean instant death." The screen went dark. Officer Kim turned to Taiyo. "Sir, are we really sending civilians to that monster ship?" "Ambassador Minji is hardly a regular civilian," Taijo said with a small smile. "And yes, we are following the plan exactly as it was made." "What plan allows us to survive against 300 warships?" asked another officer. Taijo looked out at the stars and the alien ships floating among them. "The only one that might work. Now tell the ambassador her shuttle is ready." Ambassador Minji checked her appearance one last time. Her simple black suit was clean and proper. Her hair was tied back neatly. She looked like what she was. A serious diplomat ready for important talks. Not like someone about to meet aliens who could destroy her whole world. "Are you sure about this approach?" asked Dr. Hyun, the xenobiologist on her team. The doctor was checking data on her tablet. "The Ralvarians have never shown interest in talking before. That's because no one has offered them something better than fighting," Minji said. She put several data tablets into her bag. Then she added small boxes containing cultural gifts from Earth. "Is the data ready?" Dr. Hyun nodded. "Everything we know about Ralvarian biology, culture, and history. It's not much, but we've studied the reports from the other systems they conquered." Colonel Soman, the military advisor, checked his own tablet. "The shuttle is ready, Ambassador. No weapons, as they demanded. But I still think this is too dangerous." "More dangerous than certain destruction?" Minji asked with a raised eyebrow. "This is our best chance. The Ralvarians respect strength above all," Soman argued. Walking onto their ship with no protection doesn't show strength. There are many kinds of strength, Colonel, Minji said. It's time we showed them a kind they haven't seen before. The small team boarded the shuttle. Besides Minji, Dr. Hyun, and Colonel Soman, there was also Doyun, a cultural interpreter. The shuttle lifted off from Earth and headed toward the massive alien flagship. Minji looked out the window as Earth grew smaller behind them. So much depended on this meeting. So many lives. But she had spent years preparing for first contact situations. She had studied every known alien species and learned from Earth's own history of conflicts and resolutions. If anyone could do this impossible job, it was her. Admiral Koro watched the tiny human shuttle approach his massive warship. They actually came, said Science Director Vzark, standing beside him. Without weapons. Either very brave or very foolish, Koro said. Our scans show they are physically weak, said War Counselor Threk, the third Ralvarian in the command room. No natural armor, no claws, limited strength. How did such beings ever reach space? That is the only interesting question about them, Koro admitted. We will learn what we can, then end this quickly. The human shuttle docked. Security troops escorted the 4 small aliens to the command center. The Ralvarians towered over them. Each alien was 3 meters tall with multiple strong arms and natural armor covering their bodies. They were built for war. The human called Minji stepped forward. She showed no fear as she looked up at the massive aliens. The Ralvarians found this confusing. Fear was normal. Fear was expected. Admiral Koro, she said with a small bow. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I bring greetings from Earth and gifts to honor this first meeting between our peoples. Koro looked down at her. You face extinction, he said bluntly. Why waste time with words? Minji smiled. The expression confused the aliens further. Because, Admiral, both our species have something the other would find valuable. Wouldn't you prefer to gain everything with no casualties rather than lose resources in unnecessary conflict? The 3 Ralvarian leaders looked at each other. Lose resources? What could these tiny beings possibly do to their mighty fleet? You speak as if you have choices, Koro said. You do not. There are always choices, Minji replied calmly. She opened her bag and took out a data tablet. May I show you something that might change your view? For the first time in generations, a Ralvarian invasion force hesitated. These humans were not acting like a species about to be conquered. They were acting like equals coming to talk about business. It made no sense. Show me, Koro finally said. As Minji activated the tablet, the Ralvarians leaned forward to see what possible thing could make these strange humans think they could negotiate with the mighty Ralvarian Empire. What they saw would change everything. 2 days later, the diplomatic talks began on Neutral Station 1, an orbital platform hastily prepared for this historic meeting. Large windows showed Earth below, beautiful and blue. The station had been changed to make both humans and Ralvarians comfortable. One side had higher ceilings and stronger chairs for the 3-meter-tall aliens. The other side was built for the much smaller humans. Ambassador Minji entered the main meeting room with her team. Dr. Hyun, the quiet xenobiologist who studied alien life, Colonel Soman, who walked with the confidence of a soldier, and Doyun, the cultural expert whose eyes missed nothing. They took their seats at the long table and waited. The door on the other side opened. Admiral Koro entered first, his massive form making the room seem smaller. Behind him came Science Director Vzark, who kept looking at the humans with clear curiosity. War Counselor Threk entered last, his face showing only disgust at having to sit with what he saw as lesser beings. This meeting place is acceptable, Admiral Koro said as he sat down carefully on the reinforced chair. Thank you for agreeing to these talks, Minji said with a small nod. We believe they will benefit both our peoples. Threk made a harsh sound. There is nothing to talk about. You will surrender or be destroyed. That is the Ralvarian way. The Ralvarian way has been very successful, Minji agreed, surprising the aliens. 17 systems conquered shows your strength. But what if there was a way to get what you want without fighting? Wouldn't that be even better? Explain, said Koro, leaning forward. Minji touched her data tablet. A large screen on the wall lit up, showing maps and numbers. This is an analysis of your conquests over the past 50 years. Each victory cost you ships and warriors. In total, you've lost 30% of your forces taking these systems. The aliens stared at the screen. The information was correct, but how did the humans know this? We have studied the reports from worlds you conquered, Dr. Hyun explained. We understand your goals and methods. War Counselor Threk slammed his fist on the table. You speak as if losses matter. Warriors are meant to fight and die, that is honor. Of course, Minji said calmly. But what if you could get 5 times the resources with 0 casualties? Would that not better serve the Empire? Science Director. Bizark spoke for the first time. What resources do you speak of? Your world has minerals and water, but nothing we cannot take by force. Minji smiled. Not resources from Earth. Resources from uninhabitable planets in your own territory. She touched her tablet again. The screen changed to show barren, lifeless worlds. These 12 planets in Ralvarian space have rich mineral deposits but can't be used because of toxic atmospheres or extreme conditions. What if you could change that? Colonel Soman stepped in. Even if you conquer Earth, the long-term costs of controlling our population would exceed the resource gains. Humans fight back against occupiers. History shows this would drain your forces for decades. The Ralvarians shifted in their seats. This was not how conquered species talked. These humans spoke with confidence, using facts and logic rather than begging for mercy. And what alternative do you suggest? Asked Koro. Dr. Hyun stood up and walked to the screen. Terraforming technology. Earth scientists have developed methods to transform dead worlds into habitable ones. We can adapt this technology to make those 12 planets in your territory usable. War Counselor Threk laughed. And why would you give us such valuable technology? So we can grow stronger? Because in exchange we want peace and trade, said Minji. And because there are things humans can offer that the Ralvarian Empire needs. Science. Director Vzark tilted his head. Such as? Innovation, said Minji simply. Your empire has conquered many worlds, but your technology has improved very little in the past century. Humans change and adapt quickly. We solve problems in new ways. The aliens looked at each other. This was true, though they had never seen it as a problem. The Ralvarian way valued tradition and proven methods, not constant change. As the talks continued, other Ralvarian officers monitored Earth's communications. They were shocked by what they found. Humans weren't just talking about surrender terms. They were discussing cultural exchange programs, joint research projects, and trade. Agreements as if they were equals to the mighty Ralvarians. This is madness, one officer told another. They talk about teaching us things, us, the greatest warriors in known space. But what they showed the Admiral about those dead planets, if that technology is real, the second officer said thoughtfully. Back. In the meeting room, War Counselor Threk had reached his limit. You speak as though you have leverage, he growled. Yet we could destroy your civilization within days. You could, agreed Minji. But then you'd never learn how we've survived despite being physically weaker than most spacefaring species. There's strength in more than just combat prowess. The room went quiet. This was not how conquered people talked. This was not fear or submission. This was something new. What do you mean? Asked Science Director Vzark, his scientific curiosity clearly growing. Dr. Hyun took over. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We are not the strongest or fastest, but we keep going when others stop. We solve problems with our minds because our bodies lack natural weapons. This has made us extremely adaptable. She showed images of Earth's history, humans surviving in deserts, Arctic regions, jungles, and even underwater habitats. No other species we know of can live in so many different environments. We don't just survive. We thrive by changing and adapting. Admiral Koro stood suddenly. We need time to consider these unusual ideas. This meeting will continue tomorrow. As the Ralvarians left, Minji and her team exchanged looks. It wasn't a victory, but it was a start. The aliens were listening. "Do you think they'll actually consider our proposal?" asked Doyen quietly. "They're warriors who respect strength," said Colonel Soman. "But strength comes in many forms. I think we've made them curious, at least." "Curiosity is good," said Dr. Hyun. "It means they're thinking instead of just reacting." In his private quarters, Admiral Koro called his ship. "Send me everything we have on human history and technology. I want to know how these physically weak beings reached space at all." The information began flowing to his screen. As he read about human wars, human creativity, and human persistence, his four eyes widened. The more he learned, the more he understood why Ambassador Minji seemed so confident. These humans were unlike any species the Ralvarians had ever encountered. They didn't just accept their physical limitations, they overcame them in ways the Ralvarians had never imagined. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Koro wondered if there might be something his people could learn from a species they had planned to conquer. The next day's meeting would change everything. The third day of talks began with a different feeling in the room. The Ralvarians entered looking less sure of themselves. Admiral Koro had spent the night reading about human history. Science Director Vizark had studied human technology. Even War Counselor Threk seemed less angry and more thoughtful. "Before we continue," Admiral Koro said as everyone sat down, "I have questions about your species." Ambassador Minji nodded. "We're happy to answer any questions." "How did you advance so quickly?" Koro asked. "Our records show that just 300 years ago, humans were using simple machines and burning fuel. Now you have spaceships and can change entire planets. No other species has moved so fast." Dr. Hyun smiled. "That is the human advantage, Admiral. We adapt, we solve problems. When we face challenges, we create new ways to overcome them." Science Director Vizark leaned forward. "But how? Our scans show your bodies are weak. You have no natural armor, no claws, nothing to help you survive." "May I show you?" asked Dr. Hyun. When Vizark nodded, Dr. Hyun touched her tablet. The large screen showed images from Earth's history. Early humans working together to hunt animals, much larger than themselves. People building shelters, creating farming and forming communities. "Because we were not the strongest, we had to be the smartest," she explained. "We had to work together. One human alone is weak, but humans together can solve almost any problem." War Counselor Threk snorted. "Working together is not unique. All species do this." "Yes," agreed Dr. Hyun. "But humans take it further. We don't just work together in groups. We build on the knowledge of those who came before us. Each generation doesn't start over. They continue from where the last one stopped." The screen showed the rapid progress of human technology, from stone tools to metal, from simple machines to computers, from early planes to spaceships. "This is what makes humans different," said Ambassador Minji. "We went from our first powered flight to landing on our moon in just 66 years. From basic computers to artificial intelligence in less than a century." The Ralvarians looked at each other. Their own progress had been much slower. Their ways had not changed much in 1,000 years. "I would like to see some of your defense systems," said Admiral Koro suddenly. Colonel Soman looked at Minji, who nodded. "Commander Tejo has invited Ralvarian officers to observe some of our systems," said Colonel Soman. "If you'd like to see them personally, we can arrange it." War Counselor Threk laughed. "You would show us your defenses? That is either very brave or very foolish." "It's neither," said Minji. "It's confidence." Later that day, Commander Tejo led Admiral Koro and a small group of Ralvarian officers through Earth's main orbital defense station. Instead of hiding their capabilities, Tejo showed them everything: weapon systems, shields, and communication arrays. "These defense lasers are primitive," said one Ralvarian officer, looking at a large gun. "The technology is simple," agreed Tejo. "But watch what happens when we use it differently." He touched a control panel. The primitive laser split into 30 smaller beams, each targeting a different point. We took basic technology and improved it, explained Taijo. Your ships have strong front shields, but our scans show the back and lower sections are weaker. These lasers can hit multiple points at once. The Ralvarian officers stopped laughing. Their ships did indeed have weaker shields in those areas. How did the humans know this? We studied debris from your previous conquests, Taijo said, answering their unasked question. We learned how your ships work and adapted our defenses specifically for them. Admiral Koro's 4 eyes blinked slowly. Is that why your ships are in such an unusual formation? They are positioned to hit our weak spots? Taijo smiled. Yes. We knew we couldn't match your power, so we found another approach. As they continued the tour, the Ralvarians became more and more quiet. These humans had done something no other species had tried. They had studied the Ralvarian way of fighting and created specific counters to it. Back at the negotiation table, Ambassador Minji was ready to present her main proposal. We suggest a joint venture, she said. Humans and Ralvarians working together to explore the uncharted regions between our territories. Working together? War Counselor Threk said. As equals? As partners with different strengths, Minji corrected. You are physically stronger and have more ships. We bring innovation and problem solving. Together we could find and develop resources neither of us could alone. Science Director Vzark seemed interested. Your terraforming technology could make dead worlds useful. This would bring more resources than conquest. And without losing ships or warriors, added Minji. Admiral Koro had been quiet for some time. Now he asked the question that had bothered him since the first meeting. If you have these advantages, if you can target our weak spots and have developed so quickly, why not simply fight us? Why talk at all? The room went silent. Everyone waited for Minji's answer. Because, she said slowly, the true measure of advancement isn't the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to avoid unnecessary destruction. We could cause significant damage to your fleet through asymmetric warfare, but both sides would suffer. Why choose mutual harm when mutual benefit is possible? Dr. Hyun touched her tablet again. The screen showed images that made the Ralvarians freeze in shock. These are biological agents we developed, she explained. They are designed specifically for Ralvarian physiology, based on samples we collected from previous battlefields. They would not kill, but would make your warriors sick and weak for months. You created weapons against us? Growled Threk, rising from his chair. We created options, corrected Dr. Hyun. Options we chose not to use. We could have released these agents when your fleet arrived before you knew they existed. We didn't. Admiral Koro stared at the humans. You had weapons that could have defeated us without a fight, and you didn't use them? We prefer cooperation to conflict, said Minji simply. Fighting should always be the last option, not the first. This is not how war works, said Admiral Koro, sounding confused. Exactly, said Minji with a smile. We're suggesting something better than war. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Ralvarians faced a species that could have fought them effectively, but chose to talk instead. A species that saw strength in thinking differently, not just in fighting harder. As the meeting ended for the day, Admiral Koro walked slowly back to his ship. The humans had changed how he saw everything. They were not weak for wanting to talk. They were confident enough in their own strange strength that they didn't need to fight. Science Director Vzark caught up with him. Admiral, I believe we should consider their proposal seriously. The potential benefits are significant. Koro nodded. Yes. These humans are not what we expected. Perhaps there is more than one path to strength, but not everyone agreed. Another Ralvarian ship, Sub-Commander Grath, gathered his loyal officers. This talk of partnership is weakness, he told them. The true Ralvarian way is conquest. Tomorrow, we will show these humans what happens to those who think they can change our ways. The crisis was coming. The fourth day of talks was supposed to begin with the details of a possible human-Ralvarian partnership. Ambassador Minji and her team arrived early at the neutral station. They set up their tablets and prepared their presentations about resource sharing and joint exploration missions, but Admiral Koro and his team never arrived. "Something's wrong," said Colonel Summon, checking her communications device. "Commander Taejo is trying to reach us." The main screen in the meeting room switched. On Commander Taejo's face appeared, looking tense. "Ambassador, we have a situation," he said. "A group of Ralvarian ships has broken formation. They're heading toward the lunar colony." Minji's face turned pale. "Have you contacted Admiral Koro?" "We're trying. No response yet." Taejo looked away for a moment, then back at the screen. 10 Ralvarian ships are approaching Luna. They've powered up weapons. "How many people are at the colony?" asked Dr. Hyun. 800 scientists and their families, Taejo said. "Mostly civilians." Minji stood up straight. "Activate defense. Plan Delta. Protect those people." Taejo nodded and the screen went dark. In space above the moon, the Earth defense ships that Taejo had positioned there days ago suddenly moved into action. They had been placed in what seemed like random positions, but now they formed a tight defensive screen around the lunar colony. Their unusual placement had been part of Taejo's plan all along. The Ralvarian ships fired their first shots. The Earth ships' shields lit up as they absorbed the blasts. Then they fired back with the special targeting lasers Taejo had shown the Ralvarian officers, the ones designed to hit the aliens' weak spots. 3 Ralvarian ships were disabled in the first exchange. The others continued their attack. On the high Ralvarian flagship Admiral Koro stormed onto the bridge. "What is happening?" he demanded. A junior officer turned to him. "Sub-Commander Grath has taken 10 ships to attack the human moon base. He claims he's acting to preserve Ralvarian honor." Koro slammed his fist down on a control panel. "Open a channel to Grath's ship." But it was too late. The battle was already happening. On the main screen, Koro watched as the small group of human ships moved with surprising speed and coordination. Their weapons were not as powerful as the Ralvarian ones, but they were hitting exactly the right spots. "Those humans knew where to aim," said a bridge officer in shock. "They're targeting shield generators and weapon systems directly." "Of course they are," Koro said grimly. "They studied us, they prepared, and now Grath has given them reason to use that knowledge." The battle was short but intense. When it ended, 6 Ralvarian ships were disabled, drifting in space. The other 4, including Grath's, retreated back toward the main fleet. The Earth ships had all survived, though some showed damage, sir, said the communications officer. "We're receiving a message from the human command station." Koro took a deep breath. "Put it through." Commander Taejo's face appeared on the screen. His expression was hard. "Admiral Koro," he said, "I believe we need to talk about what just happened." The neutral station was no longer neutral. Armed human guards now stood at every door. When Admiral Koro arrived with Science Director Vzark and War Counselor Threk, they were searched for weapons before being allowed into the meeting room. Ambassador Minji sat at the table, her face showing no emotion. Colonel Soman stood beside, her hand resting on her sidearm. Dr. Hyun and Doyon were checking data on their tablets. "This attack was not authorized," Admiral Koro said as soon as he sat down. "Sub-Commander Grath acted against my orders." 6 of our people are dead," Minji said quietly. 22 are injured. Families, children. Threk leaned forward. "And how many of our warriors died? Your ships knew exactly where to hit us." "None of your people died," said Colonel Soman. "Our weapons were set to disable, not destroy. We could have killed everyone on those ships." The room went silent. "You held back?" asked Vzark in disbelief. "Of course we did," said Minji. "We don't want war. We never did." Admiral Koro looked down at the table. "The attack has changed things. My warriors are calling for revenge. Your people must want justice. Perhaps talking was a mistake after all." "No," said Minji firmly. "This is exactly when talking matters most." She stood up. "I would like to address your entire fleet, Admiral. All ship captains and crew. Let me speak to them directly." The Ralvarians looked shocked. That has never been done, said Threk. No non-Ralvarian has ever addressed the fleet. Then it's time for something new, said Minji. Admiral Koro thought for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Very well. But what will you say that could possibly make a difference now? The truth, said Minji. Something that might surprise your warriors. An hour later, every screen on every Ralvarian ship showed Ambassador Minji's face. The human was tiny compared to the aliens watching her, but her voice was strong and clear. People of the Ralvarian fleet, she began. Today, blood was spilled that did not need to be. Both Ralvarians and humans are now in pain because of it. She paused, letting her words sink in. But I am not here to condemn or threaten. I am here to acknowledge the warrior's need to test an opponent's strength. Sub-Commander Grath tested ours today. And now you have seen how humans respond to attack. The screens changed to show footage from the battle. The Earth ships moving with perfect coordination, their weapons hitting the exact weak points of the Ralvarian vessels. We could have destroyed those ships, Minji continued as the footage played. Instead, we chose to disable them to preserve life. The screens changed again, showing something that stunned the Ralvarian warriors. Human doctors treating injured Ralvarians in an Earth medical facility. Right now, the Ralvarians who were hurt in the battle are receiving the same care as our own people. Because that is the human way. We understand the difference between an enemy and someone who could be a friend. Admiral Koro watched the reaction of his officers on the bridge. They were confused, unsure how to respond to this approach. We have demonstrated our capability, Minji continued, and we have shown our restraint. Both are forms of strength. Now I offer something no one has ever offered the Ralvarian fleet before. She looked directly into the camera. I challenge Admiral Koro to the Ralvarian trial of paths, but with a change. Instead of physical combat, we will test our strategies against each other. If I lose, Earth will surrender. If I win, we form an alliance that will make both our peoples stronger than ever before. Every Ralvarian watching knew the trial of paths. It was their most sacred challenge ritual, but no outsider had ever known about it, let alone invoked it. And to change it from physical to mental combat, it was unheard of. Yet somehow this small human had learned about their deepest traditions and found a way to use them in a new form. Admiral Koro stood in shock on his bridge. The human ambassador had just done something that would change the Ralvarian Empire forever. She had given him no choice but to accept her challenge. The Ralvarian Trial of Paths took place in the Great Hall of the alien flagship. Hundreds of Ralvarian warriors stood in a circle around a raised platform. On one side stood Admiral Koro, powerful and tall in his ceremonial armor. On the other side stood Ambassador Minji, small but straight-backed and calm. This is madness, War Counselor Threk muttered to Science Director Vzark as they watched. No human can match a Ralvarian in any trial. Yet she asked for this. Vzark replied, she must have a plan. The traditional Trial of Paths was a physical contest where warriors fought with ancient weapons. But Minji had changed it to a contest of strategies. On the platform between them stood a three-dimensional map of a star system. The challenge: each side would take turns placing ships and defenses, trying to control key positions. Ambassador, Minji has invoked the trial, Admiral Koro announced to the gathered warriors, as is her right as a worthy opponent. The rules have been modified by agreement. Some warriors growled at this change to their ancient tradition. Others watched with curiosity. The human goes first, Koro said. Minji stepped forward. She studied the star map carefully, then placed her first marker, a small blue light representing an Earth ship. She put it not in a strong defensive position, but near a small moon of an outer planet. The Ralvarians murmured in confusion. It seemed like a foolish move. Admiral Koro placed his first marker, a red light for a Ralvarian warship. He put it in the perfect tactical position to control the main travel routes. The game continued. With each move, Minji placed her pieces in what seemed like random, weak positions. Admiral Koro placed his in textbook perfect formations. The Ralvarian warriors started to laugh. This would be an easy victory. After 20 moves, Admiral Koro had all the strong positions. His ships controlled the main planets and travel routes. Minji's pieces were scattered around edges and less important areas. "Do you surrender?" Koro asked, sure of his victory. Minji smiled. "No. In fact, let me show you something." She touched a control on the platform. Suddenly, all her blue markers lit up and connected with lines of light. They formed a complex web that surrounded all of Koro's positions. "What is this?" Koro asked, looking confused. "This is adaptability," Minji said. "While you took the obvious strong positions, I built a network. Every one of my ships can support the others. No single ship is strong, but together." The simulation ran forward. Koro watched in shock as his powerful fleet was slowly disabled by Minji's weaker but better connected ships. They attacked from unusual angles, supported each other, and adapted whenever he tried to counter them. Within minutes, the simulation showed all of Koro's ships disabled or trapped. The hall went completely silent. No Ralvarian had ever seen such a strategy. It went against all their military teachings. "This is how humans fight," Minji explained to the silent crowd. "Not with overwhelming force, but with flexibility and cooperation. We turn weakness into strength by thinking differently." Admiral Koro stared at the map. Then, to everyone's surprise, he began to laugh, a deep, genuine sound. "In 1,000 years of conquest," he said, "no one has ever defeated me this way." He turned to face the gathered warriors. "The human has won the trial of paths. By our oldest laws, we must honor her victory." Some warriors shouted in protest. This couldn't be right. Humans were weak. They couldn't beat Ralvarians. But most were silent, staring at the star map where Minji's unusual strategy had clearly worked. Admiral Koro raised his hand for silence. "I have made my decision. The Ralvarian fleet will establish a cooperative boundary with Earth. We will not conquer their world. Instead, we will work with them on the projects they have proposed." The weeks that followed were difficult. On Earth, many people didn't trust the sudden change in plans. Why make deals with aliens who had come to conquer them? In the Ralvarian fleet, many warriors felt their traditions had been betrayed. War was their way, not talking and working together. Commander Taijo found himself working closely with moderate Ralvarian officers, helping them prevent angry warriors from restarting the conflict. "Your warriors don't like change," Taijo said to a Ralvarian officer named Krell. "And your people don't trust easily," Krell replied. "We have much work to do." On Earth, Ambassador Minji met with world leaders to explain the new agreement. "These aliens came to destroy us," said one angry leader. "Now we're supposed to work with them? Share our technology with them?" "They came as conquerors," Minji agreed. "But they're leaving as partners. That's a victory without a war. Isn't that better than fighting?" She showed them projections of the economic benefits, the scientific advances that would come from working with the Ralvarians, and the security of having such powerful allies rather than enemies. Slowly, both sides began to accept the new reality. 3 months later, the first joint expedition was ready to launch. The human ship Concordia carried scientists, diplomats, and cultural specialists from Earth. The Ralvarian vessel Honor's Evolution provided